Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Patmos, and it is January the 16th. And I have what I think you'll find an interesting video for you this morning. I read earlier today that Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, really got into it with Germany. He apparently went on and disseminated or distributed or posted a video where he accused Germany of prosecuting as criminals physicians who did not vaccinate children against SARS-CoV-2 or COVID. And he made very specific claims and allegations about 1,000 German physicians having been prosecuted and so forth. The German government firmly denied this at all. And by the way, it's everything I'm going to talk about is in the text below with links. And in fact, the Minister of Health in Germany really went after Kennedy and told him mind his own business. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That was never the case. That Germany never prosecuted any physicians for failing to immunize children. They only prosecuted physicians who issued um, vaccine waivers based upon false information. So, a very significant distinction there. It got me thinking, Kennedy has really made a long list of very bizarre statements, things that are like make you really scratch your head, like where on earth is this coming from? If you recall, he doesn't believe in germ theory. He doesn't believe that bacteria cause infections. He believes that infections are caused by the environment, but not by the bacteria. They're just being scapegoated. For example, he doesn't believe that the HIV virus causes AIDS. He has said, and I attached the link, that AIDS is caused by the gay lifestyle. Now, that's interesting because what about heterosexual transmission of HIV? What about all the hemophiliacs who developed HIV infection? It doesn't make any sense, but that's what he has said. And again, the video link is attached. He even made a bizarre statement that the SARS-CoV-2 virus was a bioweapon created by China that was intended to kill certain people, but to spare Jews. And now that was really offensive and bizarre. And he has defended, that statement. So, and there's many more. I mean, I could find, dozens of statements that he's made that make you scratch your head and say, man, that's bizarre. I mean, it's almost reflective of like a paranoid delusional system. And so it got me, I became curious. We know that Kennedy had a brain worm. He talked about that publicly. He divulged that in a 2012 divorce deposition, where he said that in 2010 he had been diagnosed as having had a tapeworm that likely died in his brain. He didn't say where in the brain, but it was already dead when he was worked up in 2010. Most likely, that was neurocysticercosis, which is caused by the tapeworm Taenia solium. And it's actually a pretty common infection in parts of the world where people eat undercooked meat. And neurocysticercosis, you can have it for years and decades even. If it is treated with, if it's active and treated with anti-helminthic medications, you can shorten the duration of infection and cure the patient. Many patients, however, don't need treatment. They basically cure themselves. The worm basically dies in the brain, but that can take a long time before that happens. Well, that's what Kennedy basically said in his deposition, that he was diagnosed as most likely having had a brain worm that died in his brain, and he said it ate part of his brain. Well, most likely that was neurocysticercosis, and he reported that was found on a CT scan in 2010. If it was neurocysticercosis, he probably had that for years before. It isn't a short term. You don't get neurocysticercosis and go to spontaneous resolution and self cure in a matter of a few weeks or a few months. It can persist for years or decades. So it's likely he had it for a long time before that. So it got me wondering, is there a connection here between his bizarre paranoid thoughts and thinking about vaccines and other things and COVID and AIDS and so forth with chronologically with when he might have had active neurocysticercosis. So I asked the question, when did he become very active? He was used to be an environmental lawyer, and then in 2005 something happened. He changed course and he became vehemently, persistently on a crusade against vaccines, writing a book in 2005 where he claimed that thiomersal was the cause of autism. And as you know, since then he has been everything is the cause of autism, Tylenol and circumcision, and you name it. He believes everything is the cause of autism. So I thought I would investigate this a little bit further. And below in the text, you will find a clinical description of the behavioral manifestations of neurocysticercosis. How does it present? And yes, indeed, depending on the part of the brain where the infection occurs, you can get paranoid thinking, you can get confusion, disorientation, memory loss, depression, all sorts of symptoms, all depending upon where in the brain the cysts are located. If they're in the frontal lobe, you can certainly get bizarre thinking, including paranoia. And we know that Kennedy, apparently he was never treated because by the time it was found, it had already been a self-limited infection, which can happen. So I think it's an interesting question to ask. Can are Kennedy's ideas actually not just conspiracy theories, but are they part of a delusional system? Do they reflect underlying paranoia? And is there a connection with neurocysticercosis? I don't know. I'm just raising the question, but I think you'll find it interesting. All this is in the text below with references. Have a great day and cook your meat.